Well, welcome back to the Dirt School podcast. I appreciate you joining me today on this episode. We have a young man by the name of Cooper Bale joining us from Alabama, soon to move back to Texas. He was born and raised there. He is a young man who loves all things outdoors, actually has an apparel company called West to East Provisions. And we're basically going to talk about on this podcast public land hunting. Cooper is a young man who grew up hunting over corn feeders in Texas. And so this last year, he spent around 100 days trying to get it done on public and really learn how to hunt by using his woodsmanship on public ground. And so we're going to talk about his journey in doing that and how he managed to kill two really awesome bucks in 1 week on the same public ground in Georgia. So I promise you're going to love this episode. So you stick around and we'll get to it. You're listening to the Dirt School podcast. I'm your host, Casey Johnson, and if you like hunting, fishing, country stories, and learning lessons from those who live their lives in rural America, you're going to love this podcast. Brought to you by Hunt Real Outdoors. Cooper Bale, man, I am happy to have you on the podcast, my friend. How are you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, we've finally wrapped up our deer season out here, Alabama.
Yeah,
It's a little different than Texas, so kind of ready for a break though. We'll transition into turkeys. So
yeah.
the dead time though, I'm enjoying it. I was kind of wearing myself out there for a little bit.
Yeah, that's
So
what happens, man, when you go to chasing deer on public land a lot.
yeah, that it started a lot of public land, and man, that took it out of me, and
Yeah.
then kind of ended the season on some private, but got on a couple big ones there that ended up making me lose some sleep too. So I really really didn't catch a break,
Yeah.
it seemed
Yeah.
like
What's the last day there in Alabama?
it was man, it was February 10th or 13th or something like that. I'm getting all my days mixed up.
Yeah.
But somewhere in that range.
Yeah, that's a lot like Arkansas. Arkansas kind of goes really almost all the way through the month of February.
Mm,
Arkansas does, like with a bow, you know.
yeah. I wish, and I don't know if they'll ever do it, but I wish they would push Alabama season back a little bit. Um, it's just so long. And they all the deer are on acorns, as soon as they drop, you really don't get them on any type of pattern. The season's not early enough, and as soon as those acorns drop, unless you really got them coming to some type of feed, um, it just scatters them. And
Yeah.
the hunting doesn't really turn on for me and get bucks into daylight until December, January is when I start seeing it. So I would like, I mean, just for my sake, trying to chase ghosts out there the first part of the season, I'd kind of rather just push it back and not have to worry about it.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
That gets frustrating when you go early season a lot and don't get to see anything. You about get burnt out before it gets good. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
here in Louisiana, December and January is the best months, and it opens October. So you got October and November that you're going, let me go to another state and try to hunt because, we hardly see anything here, especially on public. It's almost you can go to some of the public ground in October or early November, and it's like you're going, they don't have any deer out here. Like I'm
Yeah.
going 5 times and seeing one deer. I mean, it's just nothing. And then when end of December and January gets here, they're running everywhere. You're like, where all these deer come from? You know,
Yeah.
it's just
And
a rut.
there's some spots in Alabama that well, there's some units that'll open up a couple weeks early,
Yeah,
and guys can catch those bucks on their early patterns still.
yeah,
When those first acorns start dropping before every acorn in the woods is dropping, that's when I've found some guys to have some success early on in Alabama.
yeah,
Um, but we ended up in November. We just went to Georgia,
yeah,
hunted public over there because they were full rut, and it's you cross the river from Alabama into Georgia, it's like a whole new deer breed.
yeah.
They were full force, and 50 minutes away, you can't get one, you can't catch a movement. It's just crazy,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, it's weird how deer move in different areas, and it don't even have to be that
Mhm.
far away. You're like
Mm,
an hour. Like we have some places here that within an hour of here, the rut is like middle of November, and then you go 30 minutes south of here, and it's the end of December, and it's like
yeah.
how can like 40 miles be that vast difference, but it is. Yeah, so it's kind of different. Well, let me ask you this because you've already said that you hunted in Alabama, that's where you live, and you hunted in Georgia, and I want to get into the story about 100 days and killing them big deer in Georgia that you killed. But you were born and raised in Texas, correct?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and so you
Yep.
grew up basically hunting in Texas.
Yes.
And would I
Yeah.
assume private land and everything when you
Oh
hunted in
yeah,
Texas?
private. Funny, we're moving back to Texas, and I got on my phone, to just look for some public spots. But we're gonna be down in the southern part of the state, and I was like, man, what we learned it here, and it's funny, and just the opportunities are so small
Yeah,
over there to
yeah.
find public land close to you, and so gonna have to figure something out there. 3 hours to any family property that we can hunt. But yeah, I grew up hunting corn feeders, which is
Hmm.
99% of the guys I know back in Texas. That's what we did. I mean, 6 years old, I shot my first deer.
Yeah.
We were on them, and but I loved it. I didn't know anything else until I moved. I moved out to Tennessee for college, and I went. One of my buddies was from the mountains, and he was a big hunter. And I went hunting with him, and he started talking about scrapes, and I thought he was talking about rubs on a tree. I had
Right,
no
right.
idea. And he pointed down at the ground, and I was just like, my mind is blown. I was like, do we have these? Like, is this a thing in South Texas? And then sure enough, you go back and they're more faint because it's all sand,
Sand.
you know. But sure enough, you'll see a deer, on a licking branch or hitting a scrape, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I didn't even know deer did this.
Yeah.
So I got to learn. His name's Kyle, and I got to learn the woods a lot better with him up there. And those mountain deer, those are some of the toughest deer I've ever hunted. We were trying to kill them with a bow, and then finally we just gave that up and went to the rifle.
Went to the
But
old boomstick.
yeah, yeah. Well, those deer would come down. They would come off the top, and they'd be like you could never. The level change was so difficult to deal with, and you didn't know where they were coming from. And um, I probably should just go back up there and try to keep learning it, but I never figured it out. But then moved back to Texas, killed my first, deer in Central Texas on a farm there. And that is where I started to pick up a little bit more of what deer were doing, but still didn't know anything about big woods hunting. And then when I got to Alabama, just went back to corn's legal. So I was just dumping corn and getting permission, and then this year really decided I want to learn the actual like what these deer are doing, what their behaviors are. How do I kill one without bait? And so I got together with a guy at church, and we went and walked about 10 miles one morning. And he just showed me boom, boom, boom. He's a public land hunter. And that's how and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this, watch a bunch of YouTube videos, and then went out there and tried it. And that was essentially it. But yeah, I went from corn feeder and sitting in a blind to trying to figure it out, on my own and then with some help from
So
church.
so I'm sure you would say that you like or I'm assuming this, maybe you can answer it for yourself, but do you like hunting both ways?
I
Do you? I
do.
mean,
And
yeah.
and and, and that's what's funny is I could go home to Texas and enjoy shooting a deer over feeder,
Yeah.
but and I really enjoyed shooting him in public land, not over bait. And I know some guys are real strict one way or the other.
Yeah.
Um, I enjoy them both,
Oh
to be
yeah.
honest with you.
Yeah, well,
So,
I know that you have your YouTube channel,
mhm.
and of course I have one too, obviously, and you may have already experienced this. If you haven't, you will. Trust me, you will. You'll kill a deer over bait, and somebody will get on there and hammer the mess
Yeah.
out of you about not being a real hunter and you're cheating and that's not, so that's coming if you haven't already experienced it. But I love doing it both ways. But it is definitely a big challenge to get out on that public land and try to learn that land and the landscape and just learn all the tricks of the trade. And it's so good to have a friend that does it and does it well
Mhm.
that can help you. That's a
Mhm.
huge thing, man. I've got a buddy of mine that hunts a lot of public, and I hunted some public when I was a kid and then sprinkled it in here and there. But that's all he hunts, man. And he just knows so much stuff about it. And that's so helpful, to have somebody that's been there and done that. He's seeing stuff and I'm going, you pay attention to that? And he's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got
Yeah.
to.
I would have to, he would say something, you go off on a tangent, and like when you're in math class and the teacher is on the board and you're just behind, you're one step behind. That's
Yep.
how it felt. And I would just have to ask him like, What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like what do you?" And then he would slow it down and explain it, and then I would watch some videos, and then a lot of times I felt like I really didn't understand it until I was out there and got burned by it
Yeah.
or watched the deer, and then it's like that's what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So a little bit of learning on your own,
Yeah.
and then a little bit of knowledge being poured into you. They can't do it all
Yeah.
for you,
And
but
and you're not going to escape having one of those sickening moments whenever you do that. You are not going to
uh,
escape it. When you go out there by yourself and you start learning it and you're setting up and trying to figure it out, and they move 100 yards away from you, and you're sitting there with a bow and you almost guessed right, you almost scouted perfect, but you were just off, and you got to watch that big deer walk away, and you want to vomit. That's just
yeah,
going to happen, and that's how you learn.
yeah. It happened to me second day of season this year
Oh
on
gosh.
Alabama Public, and it was a camera issue that cost me on this one. I didn't prepare right. I hadn't filmed. This was my first time filming in a couple of years. I'd kind of dropped it and just went out there, and I had just stumbled upon a spot scouting. And then the way I set up couldn't have been any better. I probably set up from him 100 yards around this bend, and at 3:45 in the afternoon, a little buck came, and this big hammer 8 point came behind him, and it took me by surprise. I was not expecting to see a deer that big,
Yeah.
but just hunting a rub line, and I swung the camera around, and it was not connected to the tree right, and it dropped and hit the side of the tree, and he looked up at me, and I just froze. And I had him at 30, 35 yards in a couple windows that
Hmm.
he was completely relaxed. And I had been practicing a lot past distances farther than that. So I was like, I thought I had him, and then just a lack of preparation. And
Hmm.
I could not sleep. And then all the acorns started dropping. I got lucky to catch them on the first few. And then they all scattered. There were some ag fields around there. People started cutting. And it all kind of played out perfectly to kill him on that second day, and
Yeah.
I screwed it up, and it ate at me for a while.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Well,
Mm.
what would you say is I mean, some of the differences I guess are pretty obvious, but what would you say the biggest reason or the biggest differences between hunting, the private ground and the public ground? Like the way you hunted in Texas versus the way you hunt in Alabama.
Yeah,
Even if you're baiting in both places, let's just frame it like that. Baiting in Texas versus baiting in Alabama.
yeah. I would say baiting in Alabama, it's these deer are pretty used to it, because everybody in their backyard is throwing corn out. I feel like in Texas they're a lot less skeptical of a bait pile.
Yeah.
In Alabama, I mean, I'll be hunting some deer that it's like every step they're skeptical to come to that bait pile. And
Yeah.
almost sometimes I hunted without it a lot this year because I was tired of deer congregating, already sketched out at a bait pile, and then one of them picks you up and it's over, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I would say in Texas, they just there's not as many hunters
Yeah,
overall. The deer, land is a little more open, spread out. Here I don't know how many guys are hunting their own land, to be honest
right.
with you. You got guys jumping out of the truck and stuff like that. So yeah, I would just say the deer they act a lot more scary
Yeah,
here
yeah,
than back
yeah.
home.
Yeah, they're definitely, every time I go to Texas, they're just a lot more settled. They seem like used to everything. Here, good grief, here they walk around looking in trees here, so
Yeah.
they're just skeptical about everything, and that's whether you got bait or not. They're just
Yeah.
skeptical. So all right, so what was it that really made you want to try the public land? Was it just strictly because you wanted to learn more about hunting, or was it that you're watching, all the videos and all the guys are doing it, and so you're like, man, I want to try that, or somebody was in your ear about, yeah, you're not
Yeah.
doing it right and you need to, what
Yeah.
was it that made you want to do that?
Um, Kind of probably a little bit of pride,
Yeah,
just seeing guys do it online and then knowing that I had only really killed deer, like big deer in Texas,
yeah,
over bait. And it
yeah,
was like, man, some people would, at church, everybody, we have a hunting small group and I'm the leader of it. Just, it
yeah,
was a way to get guys together um, and it's like, man, they know it's like Cooper's a deer hunter, Cooper's a deer. And it's just like in my head, I'm like, I'm not near like what these other guys are.
yeah,
And so I was like, I need to go, if people are gonna be calling me that, I better go figure this out,
yeah, right,
actually know what I'm doing. And so a guy I was a guy was going from that church group. He was going public land hunting early in the year, and I just asked him if I could tag along. And
yeah.
and we got out there and split up and I got on that big one. And both of us were kind of shocked, that we got on that big of a
Now
deer.
this was in Alabama.
This was in
To
Alabama.
Alabama, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was second day of season. Both of us were a little in shock, because just to run on something that big. And then I knew I had that Georgia trip coming up. That had been planned for a while, but these are guys that I knew that had been going there for 5 years. So that was supposed to be the only public land hunting I did. And then the early season Alabama thing almost just put that like, I can go kill another deer, but it's not going to be another public land deer.
Right.
In Alabama, it just kind of put that fire in me. Um, and then luckily we were able to get it done in Georgia.
Yeah,
Still didn't get one in Alabama. Passed on another smaller 8 point that was probably 2 years old.
yeah,
And we were pretty far back in there.
yeah.
And I just, at that point I was like, I'm not going to do
Yeah,
that.
right,
So,
right. Yeah. Now,
mhm.
do you have I mean, I'm assuming just based on that you kind of have a gauge of like about what you want to shoot, or is it depending on the situation, if it's brown, it's down kind of deal on public?
I would say situational,
Yeah, okay.
definitely. The buck I passed on, I was hunting that big one,
Hmm.
and so that was more situational. The first deer I shot in Georgia, it was more like I was just kind of use like 8 points. Like if something comes out with 8 points, or a big mature deer, like it's I'm gonna shoot it.
Yeah,
Because you don't our opportunities were very few, and we were getting into rifle season.
yeah.
So I was
Okay.
like, I gotta tag something.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any meat either,
Right,
so
right. Yeah.
um so yeah, I would say private land, I would just be mature, if it's a mature buck
Yeah.
and I have space in my fridge. That's one thing. I live in an apartment with my wife and like we don't have much space. So like sometimes it's like if I didn't have meat, I would shoot that deer.
Right.
But got to be a little more picky, I
Yeah.
guess, when it gets later in the season and the freezer's
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so let's talk about, because you've mentioned the Georgia and killing the deer in Georgia, and if I
Hmm.
did my research correctly on you, you were able to kill two
Hmm.
public land on
Yeah.
Georgia too. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So let's walk through that process of how you killed that first one, and then let's jump into how it transpired of you killing the other one. Like, give me some details of what that looked like. We found a spot. This is where I set up, or was it just
Yeah.
complete? Walked in the dark, climbed the tree, and the sucker came
No.
right under me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so we went early October, or not, or mid-October to scout out there. And so one of my buddies ended up getting on a buck night one. Just he was not even planning on it. And so I didn't hardly see a thing when we were out there that first time. But on the last day, I was walking and I found just what looked like a prime area, with the big old giant scrape coming out of some different draws and everything. It made sense, like it was a little meeting area,
Yeah,
like these bucks were traveling from different areas and they were coming down to the center spot. And so I was like, so I put a camera on it, an old muddy camera,
yeah,
an SD card. I can't remember the last time I used one of those before that. I put it out and then the whole month I was just, thinking like what's going to be out there on it and went and pulled the card and sure enough there were a couple really really nice bucks, but most of them were at night and then one of them was in daylight. And so I'd been watching a bunch of Bobby Worthington and they were kind of in the pre-rut, and I was like I'm just going to camp this spot out. Like it was like once every 3 days something was coming through. I was like, I'm gonna all day sit this spot and something's gonna happen. And so I did, and sure enough, um, a couple days in, uh, a doe is coming from my left, and this huge 10 point is behind her, one that I'd gotten a picture of, and she somehow when she turned. And when they're in the full sprint, I just go ahead and grab my bow. I'm
right,
kind of banking on they're not going to see me. I have to do it now.
right.
And I did it, and somehow she saw me
Oh, goodness.
running to the side. I still don't know how, but she blew as soon as I grabbed my bow. He just stood there at about 50 and with all the junk in the way and didn't know what was happening and ran off. And I kind of figured I was like, that might be. I sat there a little longer another day and then nothing happened, but I had seen where all these bucks were on top of this ridge and this thick stuff. And so I just took off up there and I just walked up there the day after I had abandoned that spot. And about 11 a.m., I bumped two does on the side of this old road and they were 10 yards from a scrape that was pretty fresh. And I was just like, I'm just gonna sit here. I mean,
Right.
I was just trying to find deer and then sit there. And I got up in the tree and I started a grunt call, just just small tending grunts, and I was hitting it pretty consistently. Um, and sure enough, 30 minutes in, that this, 2 or 3 year old 8 point, nice buck comes over
Yeah.
the hill. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like he was looking. He was looking where that grunt call was coming from.
Yeah, he
It
heard
was
that.
it was a real thick bedding area on the side of that road that I was calling into, so I could really only see it 30 yards into it.
Yeah.
And so he came out of that bedding area, kind of where those does were. I think he was just watching them. And then he took off the other way, and I was like, dang it, like there he goes again. So I kept hitting the call, and sure enough, he circled back and came at 20 yards, and I dropped under a limb on the saddle and um, felt like forever to get that shot off because I've been shooting a hinge release
Yeah.
just because I'm trying to get better about not rushing,
Right.
in the movement. And it slapped him, perfectly. And he ran about 40, 50 yards and went in there, recovered him. And my buddies were still hunting. So I got the pleasure of getting him out of there by myself. But that was awesome. I was stoked with him, and you get two tags over there. So I was kind of stoked, but the other guys still had some tags, so they were like, let's keep hunting. We had planned a week out and we had a cabin for a week.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of how the first one transpired.
Yeah.
Uh, Not a huge deer, but just a lot of walking. I before that moment.
Now, did you after that experience,
Hmm.
this is something that I learned and I will do every single time that I kill one on public. Uh, a buddy of mine, well, actually, I did this in Kansas on a doe, but son, I flipped it over on its side, hauled that sucker out in the woods, and carried it out
Hmm.
just to meat in a bag in a backpack
Okay.
instead of dragging it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can and I tell you, there's a oh my goodness, the guys they're from Mississippi. They've got a YouTube channel, real good, just real. It's a young guy and an older guy. Daniel Lemon is one of them's name, and um, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of what they're hunting. I watch it constantly. But anyway, he's got a good video on how to do that. But yeah, man, you can quarter that thing up and actually debone it,
Hmm.
out in the woods and leave the carcass there or whatever and get your horns and the head and all that and backpack it out. That saves you a lot of trouble, man, instead of dragging
That
one
would.
600 yards.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I did. It was 600 yards, and luckily it was flat.
Yeah.
And the deer didn't weigh too much.
Right. Yeah.
So it
I
did. It,
go
it
ahead.
didn't take me too long once I got the momentum, but man, my hamstrings by the end of that were
Yeah. Yeah.
were pretty sore.
Yeah, I seen a guy do this one time years ago, and I know there's a technique involved in it. I don't know what you call this method, but he would peel the skin on of legs, the bottom part of the legs,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
he would basically take the bone out, and then he would crisscross the
And
legs
then
and tie it
backpack it.
together, and he backpack it out
Yeah.
after he gutted it.
My brother-in-law sent me that. I can't remember what he called it too. He had a name for it,
Yeah.
and I thought about doing that as well. But yeah, I guess I chose to do it the dumb way, you know.
Well, I've done that a million times that way, but whenever the first time I did it was in Kansas, and I said, you know what, I've been watching them videos of guys doing this. I'm
Hmm.
just gonna try it. I
Yeah.
wasn't 60 yards, 70, 80 yards from a gravel, little private gravel that we was hunting on, and I said I could get my truck there, but I'm just gonna try it because I want to learn,
Yeah.
how to do
Yeah.
it. So I did that one, and then after that, I was like, mm-mm, I ain't dragging no deer anymore, man. If I'm on public way back. And usually, if
Yeah.
I'm on public, I'm pretty way back. So I said, I'm gonna do it like that every time. But
Yeah.
yeah, that helps for sure. Okay, so you kill that deer,
Hmm.
and you get to brag about that to your buddies and everything. So that's
Hmm.
all good. Yeah. So you go back 2 days later. 2 days later is when you kill the other one, or the
Yeah.
next day, or
Yeah.
2 days later.
I hunted the next day.
Yeah.
After that, I kind of went into the mode of I'm gonna go back where I know some bigger deer are. I've already killed one,
Mhm.
and I'm just gonna try to be patient and see if I get a chance.
Yeah.
And I kept seeing them move. I saw a pretty good 8 point move in this. There's this big ridge going up on this flat, and it was so thick. It was about 5 foot tall stuff and so thick, and then it was pines over the top of it with no cover. So there really wasn't a good way to hunt it.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out how to hunt it, and I finally just had to let it go. I was like, I kept seeing deer at 80 or 100 yards, and with a bow, I just couldn't get any closer. So I asked my buddy, I was like, man, you've been hunting here for years. Where's a spot I can get in with my bow that's tight enough to where I can get a shot off? And he
Yeah.
said, I walked through the spot yesterday, bumped a bunch of deer. He's like, they were chasing in there. It's thick. He's like, but you ought to. He's like, it's like an SMZ
Oh yeah.
zone.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that, a little runoff, and you had some thicker stuff right here, and then you had a little more open spot of the runoff of that creek. And I went down in there, and it took me probably an hour to pick a tree
Wow.
that morning
Yeah.
because everything, like on public land, you can't just go start pulling down limbs and cutting limbs and stuff. And so every tree I'd get in, like in the saddle, I'm like, I don't like this. It's not what I want to be. And then finally, I picked one, and I had two windows. And I'm like, this is what I get. This is the best. The wind's in my favor. And about 10:30, three does come in front of me, hit a fresh scrape. One of them hits it, and I tell the camera, and I'm like, "Hey, we're gonna see a buck today."
Mm-hmm.
It was just too seemed too live. And 12:30, doe comes in hot from my right, sprinting, and I just see a big set of antlers behind her. Grab the bow. I'm thinking it's just an 8 point, just a decent 8 point. Um, about 10 minutes later, I can see them running, behind there. And I finally get the binoculars on them through the brush and I see two G4s. And I'm like, that's a big old 10 point.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I'm like, oh my goodness. And then the heart starts racing.
right.
Like, uh-oh, like this is a big old deer. And it from that moment, it was 3 hours before I got a shot off.
Wow.
Um, he was
He
in
stayed down there?
There was a thicket 50 he was 50 yards from me for 3 hours.
Good
And
grief.
I couldn't do anything about it. I had a little buck, Smeller. He came up, he locked her down in that little thicket. Little buck came up and he bedded down 30 yards to my weak side right here. And I'm in
Mm-hmm.
a saddle, so I've frozen, for about an hour and a half. And then the wind swirled, little deer caught it, and he just kind of woke up and then just kind of left. I'm glad he didn't do something crazy.
Yeah.
But he left and then I would hear him. I'd hear a grunt or something every once in a while in that thicket and I see a flash, and it would kind of keep my hopes up. And the whole time I'm just thinking, man, is this just going to be one of those moments again where it just he gets away and nothing happens? And I'm in my morning stuff because it was 30 degrees that morning. Now we're in 65, 70, and I'm in my full wind. I'm sweating. Like it's just I'm nervous. And then I hear I think he's gone. It'd been about 30 minutes, hadn't seen or heard anything, and he snort wheezed,
Oh,
just let it
man.
rip. And it, make your hair stand up on your back. And I'm like, oh boy, he's still in there. And then I see this little deer, this other little buck come from the left that he was snort wheezing at. And then
So let me pause
yeah,
you right here for just a second.
yeah, yeah.
Hold your spot because I this thought from a guy who hunted in Texas,
Hmm.
barely even understood like the scraping. What are y'all doing to go from that to this? Now hearing them
Yeah.
snort wheeze and a doe work a scrape and all that. Man, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
It was
Yeah.
cool. It
Yeah.
it was it was so cool. And man, and then I heard this crazy noise. Like this, it's almost like someone with a grunt call that didn't know how to work it, like a screaming noise. And
Buck roar.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I kind of like froze for a second. I'm like, is there another hunter? Trying to call this deer in. And then I see him come out and he is roaring. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd never heard that in the woods before. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, oh my goodness, this is nuts. And so these two bucks, he's kind of staring them off and coming to push him off. And um I draw back at like 3:30 and hinge clicks. I needed him to take one more step,
Mm.
and he didn't, and then came right at me almost. And I took the more wild, probably the wildest shot I've ever taken with a bow, and took a quartering two shot and stuck it, right here
Yeah.
behind, yeah, in the neck,
Yeah.
and he crashed in frame. I exploded probably the neck artery, heart. I mean, he ran 8 yards and then just
Golly.
folded. And
Yeah.
it's like people are like, man, you got excited. Because like my reaction to that, and I'm like, have you ever been 50 yards from a deer for 3 hours and then watched him crash in frame with a bow? I was like, I had so much adrenaline pumping out of my body. I was just trying to, shake it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was truly just it felt like a redemption moment from the beginning of the year of like screwing that up. and then it felt like God just gave me a good friend
Yeah.
that told me where to go hunt,
Yeah.
and it was something that I couldn't take any credit for. I
Right.
just, and so it was just honestly, it's gonna be tough to top a hunt like that for a long time.
Yeah, that's a pretty special to the degree that you killed one on land
Mhm.
on public land in a different state that you had not, didn't have a lot of history with. And then to turn around and go the 2 days later and hear all of that stuff, see all of that stuff, just have that wild experience like that and then get it done. And then on top of all that, be with buddies when you do.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
nothing beats that.
no,
I I
no,
think I was telling this year, like hunting with people, it's so much better. It just that
big time.
enjoying the success for your buddies, or going back to camp and
Yeah,
making a fire and talking, having real conversations. Like there's just nothing that beats it. I think everybody should experience that.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's awesome.
Well, I mean, I was telling somebody the other day, I don't know, maybe I was preaching it or whatever at church, but um, we lead best and we impact this world best for Christ through relational equity. Just the
Mhm.
relationships that we build with people enables us to be able to share the gospel with them, to be able to just, talk about our faith, whatever the case may be. And hunting actually is a great avenue to do that. Number one, because of the camaraderie,
Mhm.
the excitement, just the camp atmosphere, that kind of thing. But then number two, we're experiencing God's creation when we're doing it.
Yeah,
So there's just something special about that as well. So it's
yeah.
kind of hard to beat, if
Hmm.
especially if you got a good group of Christian friends and you go for a weekend or a week and you stay together in one spot, hunting new ground, that kind of thing, or even if it's ground that they know and it's new to you, but just the camaraderie of being able to come in that afternoon and, maybe you're grilling or you're cooking or whatever, and you're like, what'd you see and what was it doing? And, and just the little tidbits of information that you get to go, well, I'm going to tweak my stand tomorrow based on y'all's
Hmm.
information. And yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know,
and
man.
and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
We were all seeing deer in thick stuff,
Yeah.
and that's when everybody killed a buck, it was in thick,
Yeah.
and we that came from knowledge from our buddies, and
Yeah.
it really became a group effort,
Yeah.
for everybody to get on one, and so you're exactly right. I do have one really unique thing too about that hunt that I want to know your opinion on if you've ever heard of it.
Sure.
But so my buddies pull up, we're about to drag the deer out, and one of them, my buddy Riley, points up in the tree. He goes, "Balloon, like that's why you got him." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And and he said that balloon in that tree there. He said there's a theory that balloons swirl down at the exact spot of buck, like little thermal hubs, and that's where they'll bed. And
Mm.
and I don't know. And I looked it up, and sure enough, you'll find some theories on it and stuff. That buck was 20 yards or 10 to 20 yards from that balloon the entire 3 hours. And so I don't know if there's any truth to it,
Yeah.
but it's an interesting, really interesting topic.
Well, I think probably, I don't know if it's just specifically because of the balloon, but I think it's probably just that thermal hub situation. And
Yeah.
then, the spiraling down, if there's a balloon that comes over and it spirals down there, that all the wind is dropping down in that spot.
Hmm.
And so a deer, if there's multiple trails coming through, he can cut right through there and smell everything,
Yeah.
because the wind is coming down over. And so it's just a safe route for him. So
Yeah.
I've heard guys talking about that when they talk about mountain hunting. Yeah,
Hmm.
there's a group of guys. I actually had Dalton on the podcast one time. It's called the Stick Boys, and they hunt a lot with traditional archery, but they hunt in the mountains of Virginia, and that they're constantly talking about thermal hubs and
Yeah.
hunting the side of those ridges and getting on the in the morning time you need to be up here, and then evening time it's everything's sinking, and so you got to be
Yeah.
on this side of the trail. They know all that stuff. You talking about guys that exercise woodmanship? Just
Hmm.
talking to them makes you a better hunter, And there were
Yeah.
several times he was telling me all kinds of things like that, and I'm going back in my mind thinking about prior hunts that I had on some hill country that I hunted in Mississippi, going, that's why them deer doing that.
Yeah.
I didn't know why. I knew they did it, but I didn't know why. And he's sitting
Yeah.
there explaining it because that's what he grew up hunting.
Yeah.
So he knew
Yeah.
all those tricks,
Yeah, my brother-in-law, I don't know if you met Trey,
Mm-mm. No.
but he grew up in Oklahoma hunting some hills and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I had a couple deer bust me this year when I had the wind right in my face.
Yeah.
And I sent the map pin to him and I was like, how in the world am I getting busted here? And he basically just drew me a giant line of how the wind was funneling off all these different hills and how it was actually doing the exact opposite thing as what I was thought I was doing.
Yep.
And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, these deer, that's why they were all in there.
Yeah.
They catching everything.
Yeah.
Um, but there really is so much to it, and you almost can't learn it without getting busted.
You got to get busted. Yep.
You got to get busted and make mistakes. It
Yep.
seems like the
Yep.
only way to do it.
That's exactly right. And then talking to guys like that who do it all the time and are familiar with that kind of stuff. It's amazing what those guys know that actually, and to go from, say hunting corn or whatever, and you know how we hunt. I mean, find a decent spot and put some corn out. That's kind of the southern way. Um, but to hunt, listen to those guys who don't get to do that, the way they hunt and pick things apart, it's, I mean, it's really the way it ought to be. But I mean, I'm not, I'm not against either one, but that's when you really know you're doing something whenever you like, there's no bait, there's no nothing. I'm just figuring out the natural terrain. I'm doing it like
Mhm.
the Indians, you know what I'm saying? I'm just figuring
Yeah,
it out. But those guys know some stuff, man. And I've been trying to glean over the last couple of years as much of that stuff as I can.
yeah.
Just figure
Hey,
it out.
I mean, this year's prime example. I sent you a picture of that buck. I
Hmm.
got a picture of. I had an encounter with them.
Yeah.
So the end of the season, 2 days left in the season, would have been the biggest deer I've ever shot by far.
Yeah.
He was a mammoth of a deer for Alabama,
Yeah.
and I got him to 60. He was locked on a doe.
Hmm.
She decided to walk the other way. They didn't spook or anything, but if I had corn in front of me, like she's coming to that corn.
Right.
And I've shot a few deer like that. The doe comes to the corn, the buck's right behind,
Right.
broadside. You
Yep.
set up the camera, it's real easy, and then you shoot. And this year, I watched them. I just decided not even in Alabama, I was just not going to hunt with bait, and I watched them walk off. And
Yes.
it was just one of those things. It's like, man, I can get better at this, to
Yeah.
where I can get myself in a little better position. And um, I had been getting away with it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
corn, it gives you better margins.
Right. Yeah.
It just does. It pulls them in.
But here's what that encounter did. It set a fire in you to know he's there, he
Yeah.
survived, and he'll
Oh
be
yeah.
there next year, and you'll have to try to get on him, you
Yep.
know?
Yep. I'm gonna try to find him. I'm gonna try to find him a little earlier this
Yes,
next year
yes,
than 2 days
yeah,
than 2 days before, but
yeah,
they're cutting a bunch of timber over there, and so I'm just interested to see what all they're cutting. It's a permission spot.
yeah,
All my spots in Alabama are permission, and I'm interested to see kind of where it pushes the deer.
yeah, yeah,
See if we can't find him earlier.
yeah, yeah. That'll be fun chasing him, that's for
It
sure.
will. He's in the 150s this year,
Yeah, yeah.
no doubt. I watched him for 45 minutes.
That's a great Alabama buck too.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's a 10 point, incredible mass with double G2 kickers. One of them was about like that. It was a big old flyer.
mm,
And I just I'm like, man, maybe it's just the build. It's just
yeah,
building up next year.
yeah, yeah,
So maybe
yeah,
he'll be 155 next
yeah,
year,
yeah.
160.
You'll have some history with him, and you'll have a good storyline for your video if you
Yeah,
film it,
absolutely.
which always makes
Absolutely.
it good. Well,
Hmm.
well, I know you'll be on public again next year, I'm sure, and private as well. You probably going back to Georgia, if I had to guess, maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do that one.
Yeah.
We're gonna be in
Oh, that's
Texas
right. You're
next
going to
year,
Tech, moving
so
to Texas.
I
Yeah.
am still trying to get to Georgia during the rut.
Yeah.
We talked about that. It's just too much fun, you
Yeah.
know. Like we love where we were, that we got a good thing going, and
Yeah.
so I would love to get there. I really would like to do some Midwest,
Hmm.
public land hunting, and just go chase some big bucks
Yeah.
in Illinois or Kansas or
Yeah.
Missouri or something like that. But just some of those tags are a little pricey,
They
and
are.
we're
Yeah.
trying to ball on a budget right now.
That's right.
So yes, sir.
Yeah. I know that Kansas one. I've been doing it for the last 7, 8 years, and it is an expensive one, but I'm not going back at least for a little bit. I wanted to try to do some different stuff, and so I'm putting in for some tags in Iowa, and
Mm.
I'm just going to hunt Arkansas, Louisiana, and of course I'll go to Texas to Ron's, and
Well, I might see you there next
yeah,
year.
yeah. We usually I
In Texas.
usually go. I'll take a week vacation and go there, and then at the end of the week, we always sponsor one of the kids with cancer that our church sponsors. So I kind
Yeah.
of take the first part of the week for just myself, a vacation, and then I still hunt the rest of the week because Ron's pretty much taking the kid out. But it's if he needs me to do something for the kid, then that's gonna be first priority. But whether it's go scout a stand or whatever. But so I'll do that and then just put in another preference point to Iowa. And then I don't know. I have to get,
How many years does it take
man,
to get to Iowa?
I think it's 5.
Five
What
years for a whitetail.
for a bow. Yeah. But now you can do it with a muzzleloader late season, like with 1 or 2. But I mean, their horns are starting to drop by then and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of guys don't like going that time of year. Or
Yeah.
if you're going to hunt on public, the
Mm.
only way you're gonna kill one is if there's a lot of food, and by then you got to have an uncut cornfield standing or something that's
Mm.
got food in it, and that's
Yeah.
mostly private. So it's gonna be hard.
Yeah, I was working in real estate when I first got out of college and referred out a farm up in Missouri. Somehow got permission to hunt it and was getting pictures of monsters on these soybean fields and
Yeah.
drove out there, bought a tag, and all the soybeans were gone and all the deer were gone.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
learned my lesson there
Yep.
real quick. So I'm gonna definitely be doing a lot more research before
That's right.
before I go up to the Midwest again.
That's right. Well, tell me a little bit before we get off of here. Tell me a little bit about your apparel company. You've got an apparel company too that you sell hats and shirts and stuff like that. So let me know about
Yeah.
that. How'd that come about?
So it came from the videos. I
Hmm.
went to Auburn University and I was getting class credit to build a hunting video company was how I started making the videos. And it was more fun than sitting in a class to me.
Yeah.
And so the second semester I went through it, the guy said, in order for this to be a business, you got to make some money. Because like there was no money coming in from YouTube.
Right.
And I said, I can make a hat. I wear a hat every day. I can make one. And we ended up making a hat. And for some reason, it just started selling.
Mm.
We got them into a local store. They sold really quick in there against pretty high level competition, the top brands. And so I made another one. It started selling. And then after I graduated school, I really didn't think I could focus on it. Um, Dropped it. And then my wife, Paige, she she was a couple years behind me in school at Auburn and took the same class, a finance class I was in, told the professor, hey, you need to meet with Cooper. He's got this cool apparel thing. And so the guy reached out to me. His name's David, reached out to me. We met. And then it was kind of my sign from God, you need to keep doing this because he said, I'll do this with you. And
Yeah.
so he became my partner in it. And for the past year and a half, we've just been really grinding, trying to figure it out. Neither one of us are apparel people, but we've been doing trade shows. So
Yeah.
I was in Oklahoma City last weekend, Mississippi the 2 weekends before that. And the goal is to kind of build a community in the videos
Hmm.
and then sell our apparel and perform at a high level with the apparel. We want to be able to be in any outdoor store.
Right.
And so far we've had pretty good luck getting into some stores. And I'm not sure exactly what it's going to develop into, but for now we're kind of running that play, and hopefully this year the apparel will be able to support full time,
Yeah. Yeah.
is what I'm trying to make it, because it really is a ministry for us.
Yeah.
It's west to east. It comes from Psalm 103:12.
I got you.
As far as the east is from the west, he's removed our transgressions, and we've turned it around, turn it into we, and so we brand a lot. I don't know if you can see, but like the
Yeah, I love that logo, man.
United States logo,
Yeah.
just another God moment idea. And that's what I tell people. It's like, I don't want to be the guy. It's like, oh man, just give like God the credit and false humility. But it's like, I'm
Right.
not an artist. Like God is somehow blessing this and wants to use someone that's not talented in an area, and then connect with people that are talented. And then we're figuring it out as we go. But yeah, so in September, I'm going to Africa on a mission trip, and
Sweet.
we're going to try to build a partnership with a school over there, to where proceeds from what everything that we're making will go straight to that school in Mozambique, Africa. It's a Christian private school that they're doing for underprivileged kids.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, and so a brand is going from west to east,
Yeah.
and we didn't plan on that. God just he sees everything before,
That's right.
and he's been laying out the plans, and we're just trying to be faithful and follow him.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited. Like we're able to get our stuff into places because of the way we branded it, into places that are not Christian,
You're
in
right.
secular spaces. And one of the verses we kind of lean on is, we want to be as shrewd as a snake and kind as a dove.
Yeah.
And so God has given us a cleverness, and we're trying to use that to our advantage, to really draw guys in,
Yeah.
and then they'll get looking behind the curtain, and it's like, wait a second, Jesus is at the center of this.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
what are these guys? What, like, there's so many high school kids and middle school kids out there watching stuff.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Right.
And it's like, let's give them something. They're going to be watching stuff. Like, let's
Right.
give them something that's clean.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and then give them something to wear that represents it.
Right.
So that's kind of our motto, and we want to be one of the big players in
Yeah.
the industry to impact it for the kingdom.
Yeah. Well, you got to start somewhere, and you've already gotten started, and it's already
Mhm.
launching. So, I mean, I tell people this all the time. It's like God knows. It's like he knows what he's doing, because
Yeah.
he does.
Yeah.
And then he chooses the foolish things of this world to confound the wise, that would take a guy that maybe not artsy, but give him these logos, and man, that
Yeah.
looks good. And, and just to be able to click with people. So he can do it, man. Ain't no doubt about it.
He can. He gave me a wife that is artistic,
Yeah,
can fix things. When I get him into place, she'll come in
yeah,
and she'll be like, "You should tweak this a little bit," and I'm like, "That's perfect,"
yeah,
And so, she's just been phenomenal. She's super organized, which
yeah,
helps a lot because I'm a little scattered. And so she's making, I mean, she's the one that made the first connection. She's making this thing go too. And now she's about to start school again. And so
yeah,
it's going to be a little bit more in
sure.
my corner. But we're looking forward to it, and a new start in Texas coming up to try to boost the business and
Yeah.
see how we can do over there.
Cool deal, man. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you put the Lord first and he'll bless it. Ain't no doubt about that. And
Yeah,
he'll
absolutely.
do what he wants, that's for sure. Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate you meeting with me tonight, man.
Yeah,
Look, this is a late nighter. It's almost bedtime for us
it
old
is.
folks.
I drank caffeine at about 8:30 because I was dragging. So we'll see
Yeah.
if I can go to bed.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
but yeah,
You got
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. You guys go check him out on YouTube, West to East Provisions. And
Mhm.
he's got hunts on there, and get some product, whatever you need to do. Of course, I know you're on Instagram and all that too. Do you have a personal Instagram and West to East, or just West to East?
I do. I have Cooper L. Bell.
Okay.
I lost access to my other Instagram. Um, I forgot the M on .com on
Oh
Gmail,
yeah.
and they won't let me in.
Oh wow,
Um,
that's crazy.
so I had to build a new one, but I really don't post much on there. We mostly just post on the west to east page.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, y'all go check him out. And Cooper, it's been good talking with you, man.
Yeah, good talking to you.
We'll
Thank you.
we'll we'll catch up again, and maybe I'll see you in Texas.
I bet we hunt together this year.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. I remember we did
Absolutely.
that once before.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
Kyle was with you whenever I was there that week.
Kyle was with me.
He sure
Yeah,
was. Yep.
forgot about that.
Yep. All right, man. Well, we'll catch you on the next one.
All right, sounds good. Thank
All
you.
right.